Midnight Echoes.
I moved into the duplex off Southeast 82nd Avenue in Portland back in 2018. It was cheap, which should have been my first red flag, given the housing market out there. The place was old, built in the 40s, I think, and it smelled like 50 years of stale cigarette smoke and damp wood, no matter how many candles I burned. I was 24, single, and working 2-bar jobs just to stay afloat. I wasn't home much, which is probably why it took me so long to notice. The first month was fine, just the usual noises of an old house settling. But around November, when the rain really started kicking in, things changed. It started with food. I'd buy a block of cheddar, use a quarter of it, wrap it up tight, and put it in the fridge. 2 days later, I'd go to make a sandwich, and the block would be half gone. Not cut with a knife, but gnawed at. The plastic wrap would be torn open and shoveled back in the drawer. At first, I thought I was sleep eating. The stress of the 2 jobs was getting to me. Then I thought it was rats. Big, aggressive rats. I told my landlord, a slumlord type named Gary, who lived in Arizona. He told me to buy traps and deduct it from the rent. I bought the heavy-duty snap traps and loaded them with peanut butter. Every morning, the traps would be sprung, the peanut butter licked clean, but no rat. By December, the smell started. It wasn't the old house smell anymore. This was sharp and ammoniac. It smelled like unwashed body, concentrated urine, and something rotting. It seemed to radiate from the hallway closet where the access panel to the crawlspace was located. That panel was screwed shut, painted over a dozen times by previous tenants. I started losing sleep. I'd lie in bed at 3 a.m., the rain hammering the roof, and I'd hear shuffling. It was soft, heavy, and dragging. Shuklump, shuklump. It always seemed to come from the walls between the kitchen and the bathroom. The breaking point was 2 days before Christmas. I came home from a grueling double shift around 2:30 a.m. I was exhausted. I walked into the kitchen, flipped on the light, and froze. My fridge door was wide open. Standing in front of it, illuminated by the little fridge light bulb, was a man. He wasn't facing me. He was hunched over, wearing what looked like 4 or 5 layers of filthy, oversized coats that were stiff with grime. His hair was matted into a solid gray felt pad on the back of his head. The smell hit me instantly. It was the smell from the hallway, magnified by 1,000. He was holding a carton of my eggs. He was cracking them raw directly into his mouth, shells and all, crunching down on them loudly. I couldn't breathe. My brain couldn't process that this pile of rags was a person inside my locked house. He must have sensed me, or heard my sharp intake of breath. He stopped chewing. Slowly, painfully slowly, he turned his head over his shoulder. I will never forget his face. It was caked in dirt, his beard yellow and crusted with food. But his eyes were bright, almost manic. They were completely bloodshot. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just smiled. His teeth were mostly gone, just black stumps. "Out of milk," he rasped. His voice sounded like 2 stones grinding together. That broke my paralysis. I screamed, a guttural, primal noise, and bolted out the front door, leaving it wide open. I ran to my neighbor's house and pounded on their door until they woke up and called 911. When the police arrived, the man was gone. The back door was locked from the inside. The windows were secured. Then an officer noticed the hallway closet. The screws on the crawlspace access panel looked disturbed. The paint around the edges was cracked. They unscrewed the panel. The stench that poured out made the two officers gag. Underneath my house, in the dirt crawl space that ran the length of the building, they found a nest. It was made of stolen blankets, old newspapers, and piles of my clothes that I hadn't realized were missing. There were dozens of food wrappers, empty milk jugs filled with yellowish liquid, and a bucket overflowing with human waste. The police estimated he had been living down there for at least 6 months. Before I even moved in, they found how he got in. There was a loose heating grate in the floor of the utility closet behind the kitchen. He would push it up from below, slide into the house, eat my food, watch my TV while I was at work, and then slide back down into the dark before I got home. They never caught him. I broke my lease the next day. I lost my deposit, but I didn't care. I slept on a friend's couch for a month. Every time I hear a floorboard creak now, or smell something slightly off in an apartment hallway, I feel sick to my stomach. The most disturbing part wasn't seeing him. It was realized that for months, I was sleeping just a few feet above him, while he listened to me breathe. I worked the graveyard shift at a 24-hour gas station off Interstate 95 in Virginia back in 2021. It was a lonely job. Between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., it was mostly long-haul truckers and meth heads looking for Sudafed. You develop a thick skin. You learn to read people quickly. But this guy, I couldn't read him at all. He started coming in around October. He always arrived at exactly 3:15 a.m. He drove a nondescript beige sedan, always parked at the pump furthest from the building, where the lights were dimmest. He was maybe 40, average height, wearing generic business casual clothes, khakis, and a blue button-down, even at that hour. The first thing you noticed were his eyes. They were a pale, watery blue, and he rarely blinked. He stared with an intensity that made you want to crawl out of your skin. He never bought gas. He would come in, walk straight to the coffee island, pour a black coffee, and then stand near the magazine rack. He wouldn't read the magazines. He would just stand there, holding his coffee, watching me behind the plexiglass barrier. And he had a notepad, a small, spiral-bound reporter's notebook. Every time I did something, restocked the cigarettes, wiped down the counter, even just checked my phone, he would take out a pen and scribble furiously in the notebook. Then he'd look back up at me, unblinking. The first few times I asked if he needed help, he'd just say, "Observing," in a flat, monotone voice. After 2 weeks of this, I was a wreck. I told my manager, Dave. Dave checked the security tapes, saw the guy just standing there, and laughed it off. "He's paying for the coffee, ain't he? Leave him be. Probably some eccentric writer." Eccentric didn't begin to cover it. It escalated in November. I was stocking the cooler in the back, that long refrigerated hallway behind the drink doors. It's loud back there with the condenser fans running. I turned around to grab a case of Monsters, and he was there, standing right outside the glass door, staring in at me. His face was pressed almost against the glass. He was taking notes. I jumped and dropped the case. Cans exploded everywhere. He didn't flinch. He just wrote down my reaction. I ran out of the cooler and back behind the counter, heart hammering. I yelled at him to leave. He walked slowly to the counter, placed his coffee money down, exact change, always, and looked me dead in the eye. "Variance detected in routine at 3:42, he said. Emotional response elevated. Then he turned and left. I called the non-emergency police line. They said since he hadn't threatened me or broken any laws, they couldn't do anything but do a drive-by later. They never caught him there. The end came during a massive nor'easter snowstorm in December. The roads were closed. It was just me in the station, praying the power wouldn't go out. At 3:15 a.m. exactly, I saw headlights cut through the blinding snow. The beige sedan pulled up to the far pump. My stomach dropped. I locked the front door instantly. He got out of the car. The wind was howling, whipping the snow around him. He didn't seem to notice the cold. He walked to the door and pulled the handle.
Locked.
He didn't knock. He didn't look angry. He just pressed his face against the glass of the front door, his pale eyes staring in at me behind the counter.
He pulled out the notepad.
He started writing, holding it up against the glass, so he could write in the storm. I hid in the back office, watching him on the security monitor. He stood there for an hour in freezing temperatures and 50-mile-per-hour winds, just writing and staring. Eventually, the plow trucks came through, and he got back in his car and left. I quit the next morning. I couldn't take it anymore. A week later, Dave, my old manager, called me. He sounded rattled. "You know that notebook guy?" he said. "We found something." The snow had melted. Out by the far pump where he always parked, one of the other attendants found the notepad dropped in the mud. Dave texted me pictures of the pages. They weren't notes for a book. They weren't random scribbles. They were logs of my life. Subject arrives 2200 hours. Hair tied back tonight. Looks tired. Left shoelace untied. 3:22. Subject consumes second energy drink. Slight tremor in left hand. November 14th. Followed subject home. Residence is my address. Subject lives alone. Bedroom window on east side has broken latch. Page after page. Months of observations. He knew where I lived. He knew my routines outside of work. I moved back in with my parents the next day. I changed my number. I still don't know who he was or what he was preparing for with all that data. But sometimes when I'm out late and I see someone writing in a notebook, I have a panic attack right there on the street. My uncle is one of those tech bro guys who made a fortune in Silicon Valley in the early 2000s. He has a massive, modern compound up in the hills overlooking the Bay Area. It's practically made of glass and polished concrete. Last summer, he and his new wife went to Europe for a month, and he offered me $5,000 a house sit. The main house is insane, but he wanted me to stay in the guest house, which is about 50 yards down the hill. It's a 2-story, ultra-modern cube that's fully integrated with a high-end smart home system called Omni. Omni controlled everything: lights, temperature, locks, blinds, even the music. There were no light switches, just touch panels on the walls and voice commands. There were cameras everywhere: exterior, living room, kitchen. My uncle said it was for security. The first week was paradise. I sat by the infinity pool, ate expensive food delivered by drone, and pretended I was rich. The glitches started on day 8. It was 2 a.m. I was dead asleep in the upstairs bedroom. Suddenly, the sound system blared. It wasn't music. It was white noise, cranked to maximum volume. I bolted upright, heart pounding. "Omni, stop audio," I shouted. The noise cut out instantly. Silence returned. I checked the wall panel. It showed no active audio stream. I figured it was a software bug. My uncle said Omni was beta testing some new features. The next night, I was watching a movie downstairs. The motorized shades on the gigantic floor-to-ceiling windows suddenly rolled up. The living room lights went from warm dim to blindingly bright stadium white. Omni, close shades. Lights 50%. I ordered. A smooth, synthetic female voice responded. "I'm sorry. I cannot do that right now." I froze. Why not? Remote override is active. I got a chill. Omni, who has remote override? User, admin. I called my uncle in Paris. It was the middle of the night there. He was groggy and annoyed. He swore he wasn't logging in. He checked his app and said everything looked normal on his end. He told me to reboot the main server in the basement closet. I did. Things seemed to stabilize for a day. Then the true terror began. I was in the shower upstairs. The bathroom had a smart mirror that displayed the time and weather. Suddenly, the display changed. It switched to a camera feed. It was the feed from the living room camera downstairs, the room I had just been in. Sitting on the couch, right where I had been sitting 10 minutes prior, was a person. It was hard to make out details because the camera was high up in the corner. They were dressed all in black, wearing a hoodie and gloves. They were just sitting there, perfectly still, staring at the blank TV screen. I nearly slipped in the tub. I grabbed my towel and stepped out, my eyes glued to the mirror feed. The figure on the screen slowly turned their head. They looked directly up at the corner camera, directly at me watching them in the bathroom mirror. They waved, a slow, mocking wave. Then the feed cut back to the weather report. Sunny, 75 degrees. I didn't even get dressed. I threw on a bathrobe, grabbed my phone, and ran for the stairs. As I reached the top of the stairs, the lights in the whole guest house went out. Pitch black. Then the voice came over the speakers. It wasn't the smooth Omni voice anymore. It was distorted, deep, and digitized, like a ransom negotiator in a movie. "Where are you going, little bird?" I leaped down the stairs in the dark, stumbling. I made it to the front door. I slapped the touch panel to unlock it. It beeped red.
Locked.
Omni, unlock front door. I screamed. The digitized voice laughed over the speakers. It was booming, surrounding me. Omni isn't here right now. I ran to the kitchen slider.
Locked.
The massive glass windows were impenetrable hurricane glass. I was trapped in a glass cage, and the person controlling it was inside with me. I heard footsteps upstairs, heavy boots on the hardwood floor above my head. I hid in the only place that wasn't smart integrated, the old-fashioned pantry under the stairs. It had a manual latch door. I squeezed in among the expensive olive oils and artisanal pastas, shivering in my bathrobe, clutching my phone. I dialed 911, whispering frantically. While I was on the phone, I heard them come downstairs. They didn't search frantically. They walked slowly. I heard them go into the kitchen. I heard the refrigerator open. I heard the sound of a soda can popping open. Then, the footsteps approached the pantry door. They stopped right outside. I held my breath, praying the police would arrive. There was a gentle tap on the pantry door.
Tap. Tap. Tap.
Then, the digitized voice spoke from the other side of the thin wood, no longer over the speakers. "I know you're in there. The thermal sensor in the kitchen picked you up 10 minutes ago." I started sobbing. "Don't cry," the voice said, sounding almost gentle now. "We have all night. I just want to play." Blue and red lights flashed through the cracks in the pantry door. The police helicopter had arrived. The intruder heard it too. I heard them curse, then run toward the back of the house. I heard the sound of glass shattering. They must have had a tool to break the back door. The police found me 20 minutes later, still cowering in the pantry. They didn't catch him that night, but they found where he had been staying. The guest house had a mechanical room in the sub-basement for the pool equipment and server racks. It was accessible from an exterior hatch hidden by landscaping. He had set up a cot in there. He had tapped directly into the main Omni server rack with his own laptop. He hadn't just hacked in remotely. He was physically plugged into the house's brain. My uncle found out that the previous homeowner's son was a troubled tech prodigy who had helped design the system years ago. He knew the back doors. He knew the layout. He had been living underneath me for a week, watching me on the cameras, listening to me shower, waiting for the perfect time to take control. I can't even look at a smart speaker now without having a panic attack. I live in an old apartment with physical keys and light switches that click. It's inconvenient, but at least I know that when I turn a light off, it stays off.